Okay, ladies and gentlemen, super excited to dive into our weekly trade show here, and we have a ton of them, so I'm going to keep this intro short, but as always, drop a like on this video, subscribe if you play Dynasty, and if you want to get in a free Dynasty Fantasy Football group chat with myself and like 10,000 other people, you can find the link in both the comment section as well as the description of this live stream. You don't need an email address or anything. Click the link, choose your nickname, you're in that group chat. I think that should be about it. Let's go through. Let's dive into this. Starting off with our first deal is going to be a Treylon Burks, Jahan Dotson type trade. We have some bigger pieces like Garrett Wilson in it. But you know what I always try to do when we're looking at these trades is I'm trying to identify pieces that are similar and see if we can start taking them out. That way we can look at a trade that has 6 different assets like Burks, Pickens, the 105, Dotson, Garrett Wilson, the 202, and we can see what side's marginally being improved. And if I'm pulling up my overall rankings right now, I actually have Treylon Burks and Jahan Dotson in a very similar range. I mean, I actually have Treylon Burks ranked at 71 overall. I have Jahan Dotson ranked at 73 overall. So in my mind, these players are about the same. It really is going to be just up to your personal preference between the two. So if we're then going to be breaking this down between George Pickens and the 105 versus Garrett Wilson and the 202, I almost want to say that the George Pickens 202 side is very similar as well. Now, I know people are going to be screaming at me saying, you know what, Mason, there's no way in hell George Pickens is only worth the 202. Did you not see these highlight grabs? Full transparency, I'm not the biggest Pickens fanboy in the world. I will definitely admit I would rather have him than the second pick in the second round of this year's rookie draft, regardless of if it's going to be super flex or a one quarterback league. So I'm going to give this slight edge between Pickens and the 202 to the Pickens side. But on the other end of the spectrum, if we're going to be looking at Garrett Wilson versus the 105, it's Garrett Wilson, not even close for me. I would rather have Garrett Wilson over every rookie pick in this class outside of the 101 and Bijan Robinson. Garrett Wilson is valued as a top 15 dynasty asset for me. Actually, that may be a lie. Let me double check. A top 19 dynasty asset. I want the best player in this deal. I like Dotson as well. I'm not the biggest Pickens fanboy, so I'm going to go Dotson, Garrett Wilson, and the 202 here. Now, a swing over to our next trade. This one's going to be more simple, and we have someone trading the 107 for Pat Freiermuth. Now, I don't want to be rude when I say this. This is a fan of the channel, it looks like. So, of course, thank you so much for the support. It is better because it looks like it is a one quarterback league and the 107 is going to be inherently worth a little less because you won't have Young, you won't have Stroud, you won't potentially have Levis and Anthony Richardson pushing down top talents like a Jackson Smith and Jigba to the 107. He'll already be gone in that one quarterback league. But at the same time, regardless of if it's going to be one QB, regardless of if it's going to be super flex, you take the mid first here. Freiermuth had a good rookie season, had a respectable year 2, but there is no reason to pay this price tag for a tight end that's not named Dallas Goedert, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, or Travis Kelce. He's not named that. We're not trading the 107 for him. Now, let's go over to our next deal. It's going to be a Tua deal where we have Tua, a 4th, and Tannehill, and we're trading it for the 108, 208, and the future second. So, of course, 4th round pick, literally trash. Throw it in the dumpster. And if we're going to be looking at the 2 future seconds or the 208 and the 2024 second versus Ryan Tannehill, not going to lie, I probably would rather have the picks, even if I think there's a possibility that Tannehill is a starter this next season. Just give me the 2 second round picks and I can use them as sweeteners in different trades and I can make my roster a little better in a different way. The 108 versus Tua, I'm going to go Tua here, and I'm going to take the Tua side because of this, assuming Superflex. Obviously, if it's one quarterback, just give me the 108. But under the assumption that it's Superflex, while Tua definitely has a capped ceiling given the lack of rushing, and while, yes, Tua has some people that are not fans of him for whatever reason, I'm not the biggest Tua guy, if I'll be honest with you. I mean, if I'm going to go through and pull up my overall rankings, right now I have Tua ranked at 35. But we have to remember where the Dynasty community was at the beginning of the season. Do you remember how Tua was skyrocketing up Dynasty rankings before the concussions? I feel like people get a little short-term memory loss here. I think you still want to take Tua. I don't know. I think people are overreacting. Now, going over to our next deal, we're going to be looking at a Devonta Smith trade where we have Smith, Leonard Fournette, dumpster, Gainwell, kind of value, 207, 203, and the 110 for Tyler Boyd, Christian Watson, the 106, 204, future second, and Nick Chubb. So just to go through and start removing pieces, we can remove the 203, 204. Literally about the same thing. We can just take them out of this deal. The 207 versus future second, give me the 207 there. I mean, if we're going to be looking at the future second and Tyler Boyd versus the 207, there's probably the other end of the spectrum. How about this? Would it be fair to remove Leonard Fournette in the 207 and Tyler Boyd and the 2024 second? I'm just trying to remove these smaller pieces. That way it's a little less cluttered. It doesn't matter if one side's getting a little extra value here when there's going to be so much value exchanging hands at the very top of this trade. So far we've removed Boyd, the 2 seconds on the top end, and then we've removed Leonard Fournette and the 2 seconds on the bottom end. Left over, we have Nick Chubb, Christian Watson, the 106 versus Devonta Smith, Kenneth Gainwell, and the 110. Now, I'm a big Devonta Smith guy. I would personally rather have Smith than the 106, but I don't know if it's as easy as just saying take the best player in the deal, because I think we can all be in agreement. You'd probably rather have Christian Watson over the 110, right? So if you'd rather have Christian Watson over the 110 and maybe even Kenneth Gainwell, then we're looking at like Nick Chubb in the 106 versus Devonta Smith. If I'm breaking this down correctly, I think we're going to take the Chubb, Watson, and 106 side of things, even if Devonta Smith is the best asset here. Now, going over to our next trade, so from JN, hook 'em horns, my friend, we're getting the 112, 203, and we're trading away a future first, second, and third. I personally don't love trading away future first whenever we are looking at a pick at the very end of the first round. Because if we think of the entire range of outcomes, that future first can be, I mean, this is a 14-team league, so pick 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. And of course, I'd rather have pick 12 this year than pick 12 next year. But what you actually find with Dynasty trade value is you're going to have those picks at the very top of rookie drafts with exponentially more value. So honestly, give me the future first side of things. Okay, now our next trade, not that exciting if I'm going to be honest. If we're looking at this, we have a Tyler Boyd coming over, J.D. McKissick, Anthony Schwartz, a future third, a future fourth. McKissick, dumpster, doesn't matter. The 4th round pick, dumpster, doesn't matter. Schwartz is young. Cleveland doesn't have an extensive depth chart. He's still, I mean, guaranteed to be on. I don't even know if he's guaranteed to be on the roster. I mean, this is a wide receiver that at the end of the day got the NFL draft capital solely because of his speed and speed alone. So whenever we see some no-name wide receiver come out and run an incredibly fast 40-yard dash time and he starts to get hyped for whatever reason, understand he may go high in the NFL draft, but he should not be going high in your fantasy football draft because a team is drafting him for a different purpose than getting him target volume. I don't know what we're doing. Go Tyler Boyd. Doesn't really matter. Next one, we're going to be looking at Deontay Johnson, 2 future firsts for Ramondre Stevenson, David Bell, James Cook, and a future third. I think we're going to take the 2 future firsts. I don't think we need to talk about this too much. I will say, I've actually found myself drafting a ton of James Cook on Underdog so far this offseason. Felt like his ADP has been great there. And of course, if you want to sign up for Underdog, link in the live chat, link in the description, promo code FLOCK. They have $1 million draft contest currently live. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to under with promo code FLOCK, and you'll get our Dynasty rankings. But besides all that, sorry, let's go back to this. If we're looking at Stevenson, I mean, maybe you make the argument he's worth the future first. I would definitely pay a future first for Stevenson. By the time we get to August and have confirmation that Damian Harris isn't there and they don't really bring in much competition. But as of now, I don't really know if we're that excited about it. And I would definitely rather have a future first over James Cook. Give me Deontay Johnson over David Bell in the 3rd. So give me the picks. Now, our next deal will be a Travis Kelce one. We're looking at A.J. Brown and Greg Dulcich for Travis Kelce and Brandon Ayuk. And I want to sound the alarm this offseason. will be the first year I'm fading Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is a tight end that I have drafted over and over and over again over the past few years, specifically, especially on Underdog. But now he's in the spotlight. He had a great season. And everybody is convincing themselves, well, you know what? This man's Tom Brady. This man's going to play forever. I got news for you. If you said that you weren't drafting him 2 years ago because of his age and you were wrong, that doesn't mean that you should ignore his age today when he is 2 years older and he's going to play this next season at 34. I was drafting him 2 years ago. I was drafting him this past year. But this is the season where if we can cash out and you can pay Travis Kelce and another small piece and get AJ freaking Brown, you go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. Now, our next deal, we're going to be looking at Aaron Jones, Deebo Samuel for Mike Evans, and Najee Harris. I'm not a big Najee Harris fan, but at the end of the day, it's a running back that was selected in the first round. It's a running back that can catch the ball out of the backfield. It's a running back that's still on his rookie contract. It should be an improving offense this next season. I don't love Kenny Pickett. If you look at his average adjusted yards per attempt this past season, it was laughably bad, but I do think Kenny Pickett can improve going into year two. I think that this Pittsburgh Steelers offense will improve this next season. So give me Najee over Deebo Samuel, as gross as that sounds. With Deebo Samuel, yeah, drafted in 2019, but the man stayed 4 years at South Carolina, so he's actually surprisingly old, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of passing volume in San Fran this next year. Mike Evans, Aaron Jones, both veteran assets. I mean, I would say mid to low-end RB2, mid to low-end wide receiver 2 this next season. Not much long-term value. Very dependent on your overall roster build. I probably prefer Najee over Deebo. Now, going over to our next one, we are going to be looking at a Drake London trade. We have two Drake London trades back-to-back here. We have Rashad Bateman, the 104, for Drake London and the 208. Now, I will say I'm not a big Rashad Bateman guy, but I would prefer Bateman over the second-round pick. Yes, he's been injured this past season. He did a flash at the beginning of the year. He had a couple big plays. Obviously, it was off a small sample, hyper-efficient. It wasn't going to sustain. We all know that. If we're going to be looking at Bateman, though, from a talent perspective, I am significantly more confident with what he provides than anybody you're going to get in around pick 20 in this year's rookie draft. Now, looking at Drake London versus the 104, full transparency. Drake London was my 102 last year. I ranked Drake London in Dynasty leagues ahead of Kenneth Walker. I ranked him ahead of Garrett Wilson. I ranked him ahead of Chris Olave, which all clearly look like mistakes, but I still really like Drake London. I still really do. But to be fair, while he had a great season from a market share perspective, what we ended up finding out is this coaching staff and this overall offense may not skew very pass happy at all. They may skew the exact opposite. This past season, the only team that was worse from a passing yards per game perspective was the Chicago Bears. Of course, the Atlanta Falcons will get better. London dominated from a market share perspective, and I still think that he is a phenomenal talent. But I believe that his value is close to the 104. That's going to be the Bryce Young. That's going to be possibly the Jahmyr Gibbs, the Jackson Smith and Jigba range. I think that is the sweet spot for Drake London. So I think that almost balances out. And if you're going to be looking at Bateman versus the 208, I will take Bateman there. So give me the Bateman and 104 side. But this next deal is going to be another Drake London trade. And this is one I'm taking every day of the week. Drake London versus Jameson Williams. It is not even remotely close. Drake London was a better prospect top to bottom. I don't see how you make any other argument outside of Jameson Williams is fast, which doesn't correlate to fantasy football production at the wide receiver position. Of course, it does at running back. Drake London had a good rookie season. We did not see Jameson Williams at all his rookie year. Drake London may very easily be the number one option in his offense this next season. Jameson Williams has no shot of that with Amon-Ra St. Brown there. So give me London, not even close. I would rather have Drake London over Jameson Williams, Wan'Dale Robinson, and the future second. So the fact that we're getting the 202 on here, Love it, love it, love it. Not a big Jameson guy. I don't know if you can tell. But going over to our next trade, it's going to be a Kenneth Walker one. You have Kenneth Walker in the 110 versus Devonta Smith and the 104. I sat here and debated this for just a minute, but I don't know. I think that if this was the 107, the 106, then at that point, we're probably going to go Kenneth Walker in the pick. I would rather have Kenneth Walker over Devonta Smith. I want to be full transparent. But specifically because we have a tier of 9 rookies in this rookie class, and then in my opinion, we do have a serious fall off. For that reason, I'm going to take Devonta Smith and the 104. I think that there is a very large gap between the 4th best rookie in this class and the 10th best rookie. I think that gap does slightly exceed what you have between Smith and Walker. I could see that being a deal, though, that just makes sense for, I mean, either roster. I don't really know. Now, our next one, I definitely do know. T. Higgins to the 202 versus Gibson in the 105. Give me T. Higgins over the 105. Don't need to think about it. Give me the 202 over Antonio Gibson. Don't know what we're talking about here. Now, our next one, we're going to be looking at Treylon Burks, a future 1st and 2nd, versus Garrett Wilson. I'm not going to waste any time talking about this trade. What I want to be looking at is the league settings that you're operating with. This is a league where the league has to vote to approve a trade. I am looking at a screenshot that says 6 votes needed to veto. That should never, and I repeat, ever, ever, ever be an option in a Dynasty League. The only trade that should ever be vetoed if it's clear collusion. If it was Garrett Wilson for Wan'Dale Robinson and that's it, then yes, veto the deal. Clearly those 2 owners are cheating. However, if it's fair or at least not blatant cheating, then it goes through. It should be so obvious that you don't need a league vote. It should be so obvious the commissioner can make that decision. So I don't even want to talk about the trade. I want to talk about your league settings and how you should fix those. But I think that's about it. I really appreciate you. Really hope you have a great day. Really hope I get to see you in our fantasy football group chat. You can find the link in the description and in the comment section. Thank you again. Hope you have a great one. And hope you get to see you with the video tomorrow.